Hey Sagittarius, welcome to June 2020. I guess some cards already came out for you. I'm using this Modern Witch Tarot deck because I think it's cute and I like it. We got the Two of Wands. I'm going to call this Five of Pentacles in reverse. And we got the Eight of Cups, also calling that reverse. Okay, let's see what else wants to come up for you. The Ace of Cups. What story do we have already? Well, I liked seeing the Five of Pentacles in reverse, as well as maybe even the Eight of Cups. Seven of Swords in reverse, Four of Swords. I kind of feel like this sounds like a reconciliation, but like maybe with a present partner, or it just feels kind of like some conflict is being resolved is sort of the overall gist I'm getting. Ten of Pentacles in reverse, Six of Swords, interesting, the Fool in reverse, and the Hanged One. Well, you know, I think a lot of this feels like it has to do with quarantine, but I mean, specifically because we got the Eight of Cups in reverse, we got the Four of Swords in reverse, and we got the Fool in reverse. I feel kind of like this is really what I feel. In quarantine, a lot of shit's been coming up, right? Just because we're like in this place of like stillness, having our lives upended, literally, not being in this space of pause, being kind of like trapped, so to speak. I mean, if these two cards aren't like the two cards I think of for quarantine, I don't know really what else would be. Four of Swords is about, in this deck to me, recovery, but also like meditation, going within. And so when I saw the Five of Pentacles in reverse and the Eight of Cups in reverse, I was kind of thinking like, okay, well, this feels like, you know, where have you been feeling like left out in the cold, but you're kind of overcoming that? Or where did you feel like you emotionally had to move on from something, but you either couldn't, or you just were staying in something that felt like it was kind of like stagnant and not working? So, this is, yeah. Basically, I just feel like the story I'm getting is kind of like, in quarantine, your own shit has been coming up. Maybe you're with a partner, their shit has been coming up. So it's kind of like this perfect shit show of like everyone in the collective shit is coming up. But in particular, in intimate partnerships, it's like everyone is kind of like feeling trapped, feeling like poor, feeling like lack, feeling like kind of like they have no one, this like loneliness. But I feel like things are kind of, you know, with the Seven of Swords in reverse, it's like I feel like there's a lot of forgiveness on the table, and I feel like there's like a lot of peace entering, and I feel like kind of it's like love is being restored with like the person you're already with. So this feels kind of like a deep healing of like maybe some long-standing wounds, because this might have been like if you're in a long-term partnership, this is the apocalypse, and the apocalypse means to uncover. So it's like whatever partner, and this doesn't have to be love, this can be like family or friends or just whoever you're close with, but it's like whatever dynamics that were in play. I think there were obviously like, things weren't totally peaceful. Things weren't totally like, all good. And having this like kind of turned upside down perspective and this time to go inward, and like this is continuing on in June, but I feel like now, instead of it just being kind of like this curse, it's like you're starting to see some of the blessings and you're starting to see some of the healing coming up. So what I wanted to also say specifically is this, is like, I don't think you are moving on emotionally from something. I think you're kind of like, you're like, okay, I'm like learning how to accept my partner for who they are. I'm learning how to like accept my circumstances. I'm learning again this like forgiveness, or like I'm forgiving even myself, maybe like just like self-betrayal or other someone else's like perceived betrayal. It's just like whatever conflict there was, whatever kind of like feelings of injustice, or feelings like there's something wrong in paradise. I think you're kind of like being like, yeah, there was something wrong in paradise, and we're talking about it, we're resolving it, we're like having those conversations. With the Two of Wands, I kind of feel like you're thinking about new ways to move forward, not just like in your own life, but like in these relationships. Like how can I creatively approach my relationships and my communication in new ways? I do get a sense of this being kind of about not physical travel, but about like emotional, spiritual travel, and learning how to stay put in this one spot, and like letting, like, I think there's more acceptance. I've kind of been repeating myself, but I'm just kind of like gathering the area of what this message is about. I think something else I wanted to talk about with this, and like this conversation of forgiveness and moving on, is like, I don't think you're moving on emotionally from something, right? Like, I feel like you're kind of like, if anything, getting closer with someone. Like, you're healing it. Like, this conflict and this discord and this strife that has been like making your life difficult and making you want to escape and making you feel like lonely and making you feel isolated, I feel like it's kind of melting away. And what you're seeing is you don't need to emotionally move on. You just kind of need to mentally move on. I think you need to mentally train yourself kind of to maybe be more honest right when it happens, right? Because like maybe some of this was like festering. Maybe some of this with these two was like just long-standing grievances that had never been aired before. And as you were going inward and like having this alone time or being kind of like isolated with this person, maybe there was like resentment building. And then, yeah, so then I see here, it's like, this is like healing that resentment and kind of like overcoming it, kind of seeing again new ways of looking at things. This and this, I feel like you're kind of like moving into a new sense of identity and relationship to yourself, to the world, to like kind of how, like, it's an approach. I think it's all in the approach. So that's how I feel about this. It's like kind of like whatever tension had been building is now being resolved, and it's coming from like new perspectives within yourself. It's coming from like kind of letting go of that resentment. I feel like this is like the resentment for the perceived betrayals, at least. In the loneliness and isolation, it's like, well, you're like, I really need connection. So it's like, you're like, these two people like are like freezing to death, but they could knock on the door and like be asked inside. And that's kind of what I feel with this. It's like you're giving up your like victim mentality and like kind of that or that wronged, like, because when you're wronged, it gives you a sense of power sometimes, but I feel like you're kind of letting go of that and just saying, like, it's more important for me to connect and to see things differently and to heal and to recover from this than to, like, let this be, like, an ongoing thing. And so that's what I see here with these, is, like, just, okay, like, the love is flowing again, and, like, getting, like, and you're moving from, like, maybe into, like, calmer waters. This doesn't feel, again, like you're moving on physically as much as you're just, like, kind of emotionally learning that you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that you can kind of, like, mentally kind of have different conversations with yourself and your partner so that these emotions can really be beautiful. So it's like, yes, this has been like a pressure cooker, but like the pressure cooker is kind of like, maybe now you're like letting out some of that steam too, so that you can sort of just find this new beginning with this, probably the same person. And this does feel like a love relationship. It feels like a partner you're stuck with in quarantine, but even if it's not, and it's just like all the shit that quarantine has stirred up within you, it's like, I think you're finding healing and love within that space. So then, moving on to maybe another message, we have the Fool in reverse and the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. And I'd like to pull one or two more just to, like, clarify those. Okay, Knight of Pentacles in reverse, and Ace of Swords in reverse. So, with this, I feel like maybe there is an impatience about just the present circumstances too, and this might be where some of that pressure was coming from that was, like, affecting your relationship. But I think that this, to me, is just saying, like, keep having more patience. Like, just as much as it kind of sucks, like, and as much as it's hard, there's more internal work that needs to happen right now for you specifically, but also collectively. Like, this really is, I know it's hard because we've already been in the Hanged One and the Four of Swords energy for, like, what feels like, you know, forever, but I think it's just saying, like, the truth has yet to reveal itself. The clarity is not presently available because there's just some things you aren't either ready to know or just can't know yet because they're not ready. Like, there's just more, it's just kind of like saying, like, now's not the time to embark on, like, something completely new or, like, this new journey, even though you have the energy and the drive to go out there and to make something happen. And, like, even though you want to build new foundations, and even though you kind of, like, want to, like, start kind of putting yourself out there into the world and, like, get back to life as it was, it's just, like, it's not, it's, like, it's kind of like, I mean, this is what's coming to me, and I like movies, so that's what I'm using. It's like, you're the director of your movie, and you have done what you consider to be all your prep, and so you're like, I'm ready to go shoot the thing. But the thing is your crew is still building the sets. So you can't go shoot your movie, really, because your movie isn't ready to be shot. You know, even if you are ready, there are other people involved who, and so that's what I feel like with, like, the lack of truth, or, like, the lack of, like, clarity. It's like, not all the pieces are, and that's what I feel like with this, the Ten of Pentacles. It's like, your abundance is still kind of, like, being put together in, like, maybe the ether or something. Like, there's just kind of something else happening for you where it's just, even if you're ready, the situation is not ready, and that's why it requires more patience. So yeah, like a movie, right? Like, you want to go shoot it, but, like, if you go shoot on these, like, half-built sets, it's not going to be any good, and then it's like, it didn't matter that you were ready because you kind of just, like, shot your shot, and yeah, it's just, like, reality isn't done brewing, or kind of, like, that's another example I can use, like, if you're baking bread and you put the yeast, you're supposed to let the bread sit for an hour so it can rise. Like, you don't just stick it straight into the oven. So I feel like you're maybe just feeling this impatience of, like, wanting to stick that metaphorical bread in the oven, but the universe is just saying, like, if you rush ahead right now, it's not going to turn out, and you're not going to get your abundance, but your abundance is available for you. It's just still kind of, like, coming together, and you need to, like, have this patience of, like, waiting for that clarity to come in, so then you can, like, kind of go ahead on the new adventure. So I feel like this is kind of a really positive month overall of, like, healing some kind of, like, emotional misunderstandings and wounds, and, like, coming to, like, a deeper emotional connection. And then in terms of, like, career, so, like, relationships are, like, healing and becoming very positive, and there's just kind of, like, a clarity of, like, letting go of resentments or grudges, or having some kind of, like, honest, like, airing out of what was causing all the conflicts, so that you can have more of that deep emotional connection where you're not, like, feeling, like, left out in the cold, but you're actually feeling, like, connected and at peace. And then work-wise, career-wise, life-wise, it's just, like, saying, like, please have a little more patience, even though I know it's hard, because things are just, like, it's gonna be great because we got the Ten of Pentacles, so it's, like, gonna be very abundant and very happy, but it's just not the time yet. There's a timing element. Whoops, sorry. The wind. Anyway, there's a timing element involved. So, that's my reading for you. I love you, and I'll see you again in July. Bye.